What's up, everybody? Welcome to Untamed and Unhinged Reptile Podcast. But before, this is my co-host David, the mad scientist, and then today we got Gerard from Selective Creations. Before I bring them out, I'm gonna go ahead and play a reel for the sponsors real quick, and then we're gonna get started into the podcast. So let me just shout the sponsors out. What do you think? That was pretty cool.
That was pretty cool. I like it.
All right, let's go ahead. What's up, Shelby? What's up, Aaron Morris Fracted? What's up, guys? We're gonna go ahead and bring out Jared. What's up, Jared?
How's it going, guys?
So go ahead and tell us, about you, what you do, what you're working with.
So, what I'm mainly focused on is going to be ball python genetic combos. I'm going pretty deep into double recessive, triple recessive, and I'm going to be pretty much working on quad recessives right from the get-go. I just have a huge passion for this since I was a kid, so it's something that I have a lot of knowledge in, and I've really studied it a lot since I was about 8 years old, watching all the big breeders back then bring things into the hobby out of Africa, prove them out, and it's my time to start investing in that knowledge, basically.
Now, who's your favorite breeder coming in?
Ralph Davis was one of my favorites when I was younger. He's kind of in the shadows now, but I used to watch his YouTube videos, and then you can go on his webpage, and now they're the archives, but he used to always post uploads of new clutches and, what he was proving out, and I always kept a close eye on that. What's up, Vanna?
Vanna's awesome.
So, with your journey of breeding, when did you start to incorporate? Because from talking with you, backstage, kind of get an idea. You seem to have a lot of rigor with with your passion and your hobby. When did you start to kind of really dial it up and incorporate that into your practice?
I would say, right from the beginning, because it's something I always wanted to do. I always wanted to invest, and I felt early on, even as a teenager back in the day, that I had the knowledge to invest, but I didn't have the support group. So now I'm taking all that passion and knowledge, and I'm going full force into this, so people can really see how I can change my own game and mold my own path. I'm not really gene chasing. I like combos that other people are making. They definitely give me some insight into what I can go for, but there's no project that I look at that I go, I need to buy snakes that I'm going to make that animal with. I'm looking at that animal and I'm going, I can imagine what can make it next level. And if I can invest in that project, I'm going to make sure that the genetics are there that I see fit to push it forward. And also at the same time, those guys that are already up there making those animals are already pushing those projects to that level. So I have to also find my own path and what genetics haven't been put into those projects so that I can separate myself on a scale so that people don't just see me fit into the mold.
Okay. And on your journey, do you kind of tend towards certain types of snakes or certain types of morphs? Like, what was kind of your vision, growing up? And, were you really, shooting for one particular type of goal?
So I would say growing up, I always liked the brighter things, especially when I was younger. The caramel glow was one of my first loves as far as ball python mutations that was proven out. I think it was Kevin at Nerd, that had proven that out for the first time, if my memory serves me correctly. And I just remember go into the dial-up computer at school and just like, I need to see that picture again. Because I didn't really have internet at home. I wasn't really fortunate enough for that. So I would go to the library and my cousins' houses, and I would jump on their computer. And, you know, when that phone line rang, it kicked me off.
I so my question right now is like, is that what fired you up to get into the ball pythons?
No. I mean, my love of reptiles and amphibians started since I was a kid. I remember when I was 5 years old, 6 years old, catching frogs and all that. And I was about 6 years old when my dad caught the first snake in front of me, and it was a little red-bellied racer, a ringneck snake up north. And that little tongue flick just caught me from the get-go. I was like, those little bulgy, shiny eyes, and you know, frogs were kind of my first love. And once I saw that snake, I was like, I like snakes. And when I was 10, I got my first ball python from a pet store, and that probably came from just the people in my neighborhood growing up that had boas and corn snakes and ball pythons. And at the time and even today, ball pythons are looked at as the friendlier snake out of that group. Maybe not compared to corn snakes as much, but I like the pythons more. I like the constrictors. I mean, I'd go over and watch my friends do the live, you know, feed them live mice and stuff. And I'd actually go to the pet shop and buy a couple live mice and bring them over and be like, can I feed your snake? So that's where it all started. And then I got my first ball python, and it just kind of went from there. I started researching. I got Reptiles magazine real early on, and that's where everything basically flooded out. And you've seen the new mutations coming out. You've seen the clown in 1999. You've seen the caramel glow, the albino spider. Those were some of the first mutations that really jumped out at me. It was like the albino spider, the
Hmm.
caramel glow, the clown. Um, Ultramel wasn't until later on. So after we had already discovered, or after they had already discovered that caramel females had issues as far as producing eggs, laying eggs. They get egg bound and potentially die and things like that. So they started moving. Once they found Ultramel, they started moving away from caramel even back then. And the transition from there was like hypo enchi and just all types of stuff back then. More of the base morphs. Pastel was still real big. There was like 3 or 4 different lines of pastel. Graziani was my favorite.
Yeah, Carmel's such a great snake too. You know,
It
I didn't even
really
know.
is.
I never even knew there was a Carmel until right now. Like I knew Ultramel, but I've never heard of Carmel
Caramel is one of the,
or
I would
Caramel.
say, the prettiest out of that tyrosine positive complex, the T positive albino complex. It's unfortunate that the females have issues with breeding and reproducing, because I think that if they didn't, that mutation would probably blow everyone away compared to Ultramel. And people compare Ultramel to Monarch, but I don't think that's fair. Monarch is proven now to be its own mutation, and even before then I always knew like that's something different. It's not in the T positive complex. But the caramel versus the ultramel alone, if caramel was more popular and the females didn't have issues producing, I would totally dive into that.
David, your light went out or what?
No, it's just like my computer, like because I don't have a lamp right here, so it just kind of does whatever like I just have it right here, so it looks kind of funny.
I was like, what's going on with your stuff?
No, sorry, I don't mean to distract. It's just here. I could have it like this, I think. Um, I
Yeah, I
was gonna
saw you
ask.
black out there.
Sorry, I
I
was gonna
did,
ask.
right?
I was gonna ask. So were there any particular morphs like recently, like in the last few years, that you were really proud of, or any work that you were really proud of, or even work that you see having a lot of potential?
So I mean, there's so much, honestly, but I'm really happy that hypo is coming back into the spotlight personally. There was a time back in the early 2000s where people weren't even labeling possible hypo and even possible het xanthic VPI stuff because the value wasn't there. They couldn't sell at shows. I remember going to a show and a VPI xanthic female back in like 2015, maybe even earlier, was on the table for $100, and nobody would
Mhm.
buy it at the show because it was just seen as who wants to work a black and white project. And it really took, I think, other recessive mutations like DG to help the Xanthic project, but
Yes, yes.
also it took a lot of the cleanup genes because, VPI, TSK, no matter what Xanthic it is on its own, it really doesn't shine. A lot of them darken, they brown out, they kind of dirty up. So that's what really threw people away back in the day was who wants to buy this pretty baby that turns into a normal looking adult. So once we got fire into the hobby and other brightener genes and we started incorporating like firefly xanthics, I think the firefly xanthic is really what pushed xanthic back into the spotlight because once you had that brighter white snake that didn't dirty up and stayed clean, people were interested again. They're like, okay, this is a niche that I can get into. And when people started investing in it again, that's when they started pushing the project further to see what they could really do with it. And still today, I think it's somewhat limited in a lot of people's eyes. But now we're seeing a lot of different pattern mutations coming into the hobby over the past 10 years that are really like people are like, I want to see this in black and white, especially like the monsoon. Everybody's dying to see a black and white monsoon
Mm,
now that
me.
that morph has come in. Yeah. And, True Ghost stuff really came in, and I think a lot of people are into the True Ghost stuff, the hypoxanthic, but it also requires you to have some cleanup genes in it to really get the value. DG being one of them, DG hypoxanthic is going to be real big, especially in a lot of different combos, because not only are you going to get that black and white contrast with the different pattern mutations, but you're also going to get that fading ghostliness of the blacks, and that's a whole nother niche that people enjoy and like. So, but those animals are going to be top dollar. So, and which for some people that's a draw too.
So my question right now is like when people say pause, hit pause, they usually say I've heard stay away from that because it's a hit or miss with pause.
So, possible hets. If you do a het to het pairing, the non visuals are 66% possible het. So that means that out of, odds wise, a lot of people like to look at it over the entire clutch. So if you have 4 eggs and you have a het to a het, one of those eggs statistically should be a visual. One of those eggs statistically should be a normal, and two of those eggs statistically should be heterozygous.
Mhm.
So that's where you get your 66% is because you can't tell which of the three has the het and doesn't. So it's a probability, and when you breed a het to a normal, then all of the babies that are produced are either, it's a 50-50 chance whether they carry the trait or not, because on that allele, you have one side that's normal and one side that, say, is clown, but you need both of them to be visual clown. So when you breed that snake, I don't know why the balloons popped up for
Oh, is
that.
it is it is
It's
it like a thing? Like if you do
But
it like
yeah.
a
yeah, there's
gesture,
So
it
like
does it?
fireworks and the thumbs up and everything. But
yeah, he
Well,
has
it's
the
funny.
iPhone.
You say clown, and then there's like the clown balloons come
Balloon.
up. You know?
Yeah, that
but
was
when
funny.
you breed, like imagine this is split by
Mhm.
the DNA strand. So when you breed that normal, it's only going to pass one of those two on to the babies. and either it's going to pass on the normal or it's going to pass on the one variant of the clown, so to say.
Yeah.
So it's 50-50 whether the babies have it or not. And that's where like RGI and GRR, Charlie over there, that's where they come into play, because they can now sequence the DNA and tell you what babies got that half with the clown or the half with the normal, you know? And
Yeah.
it's
Basically, it's
worth
just
it.
yeah, it's uncertainty, and you're
It's
just going to be
uncertainty.
using more resources, thinking that you might be able to spread a gene when it's just like you said, like a normal, but you can't tell because they visually are the same.
Yeah, and that's where like gene markers come into play, like heptide markers come into play. They call them tracks. So on a lot of heptide ball pythons, you flip them over on the belly and down towards the base of the tail. A lot of the mottled black spotting along the side of the belly actually chains into a streak. And that's like one of the earliest het markers that we were able to identify in the hobby. And it's held pretty strong over the years, especially back in the day, because breeders would use that to hold back possible hets, 66% possible hets that had the train markers, the train tracks. And I don't think I've ever heard of one truly not proving out unless it was, questionable whether it was solid tracks or not. Like I have a ultramel het pied female that has the most solid tracks ever, and she's
So
100%.
are those tracks a dominant gene that's in a different part? Is that how that works?
Um, No, I wouldn't say it is, because not all of them have it. You can breed a piebald to a normal, and you can have all 100% heterozygous piebalds, and some of them don't exhibit the tracks as well as others.
Okay.
And that's because of phenotypical differences, maybe
Yeah.
with the animal you're breeding it to. It might have a stronger pattern variant, and some of the babies get that stronger pattern variant, and they don't show the tracks as well. So it's not a telltale for everything, but it gives you a good insight if you were to go on Morph Market and say this animal is 66% het piebald, and you asked for a belly pick and it shows tracks, then you can guess that, okay, this one is probably one of the 50% chances that it is heterozygous.
So they're correlated. They coincide a lot of the time, and so they use that to kind of tell if it has it.
Yeah, it's a
Okay.
good sign and indicator if a snake has it or not. Just like with het clown, right behind the head, the neck stripe is usually a little bit elongated in most mutations. Not all of them, but most mutations, especially early on with normals, you could tell like this normal is more likely to be heterozygous because it has a lengthened neck stripe, a little bit brighter head, a little bit brighter coloration, and also around the alien heads, it would have little white pin, like little thin white creeping up on each alien head. So those were all indicators that people use to assume whether it's a heterozygous carrier or not. So we see a lot more of that nowadays, especially with the monsoon stuff. You can tell like the patterns a little bit wackier, things like that. But it's also, people are feeling them out still as far as like those newer mutations. But like you were saying or asking about the probabilities, I think it's worth buying a 66% possible het, because I look at it not as a clutch probability. I look at it as what it is, which is an egg probability. So every egg has that probability that it's going to be, 25% possible probability that it's a visual.
Hmm.
And if it's not a visual, there's a 50% probability in that egg alone that it's a gene carrier. And there's only a 25% probability that it's not a gene carrier. So I don't look at a whole entire clutch and go, there's 8 eggs, so 4 of these have to be hets, 2 of these have to be non-hets, and 2 of these have to be visuals. Because it's been proven
No.
over all
Yeah.
the time that, you can have a whole clutch of clowns from 2 hets, or you
It's
can have a whole clutch of
independence. The
normals.
probability is independent. You can't.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
And I was gonna ask that too. Like, if I was to come in and invest, should I invest in a and a possible pet, whatever it is, like, would you invest in it?
Yeah, I have.
Okay.
I have because I look for markers in certain mutations, and I have a Cypress honey, 66% het clown. That the mutation, if it was 100% het, would have costed me $1,200 on Morph Market today. And I bought that snake for $400 because I wanted to take the chance on it being a het. And there's a 66% probability that it is a het, and that probability lies in the three snakes where two are het and one isn't. So it's a 1 out of 3 chance that that snake is not a heterozygous. So I'm betting on the the 2 out of 3 that it is. And looking at the snake, it has higher whites, it has lighter coloration, and it's got almost a full stripe across the whole body, which plays into the honey combination with the cypress, but not all honey cypress have nearly a full stripe. So I mean, mostly all the honey cypress have a broken stripe, but it's a striped out snake. So with it being a nearly full stripe, brighter side markings, and the white creeping up even higher, I can basically bet that that snake is carrying the clown trait, the clown morph.
Interesting.
So it is worth it. There's that 25% chance, that 1 in 3 chance that she doesn't prove out, but the odds are in my favor.
See, I don't know. I hear a lot of people always used to say just stay away from that. So I want to know if you know any new morphs out right now, like the Venom, Carnage.
Carnage has been around a while.
What is
That's
Venom?
the nanny. What is what?
Venom?
Venom? I haven't heard of that one.
Yeah, I've heard of Venom, Carnage. That was another one that just came out. Um, Starburst. Is it Starburst?
Starburst is a combination of Enchi and Lavender Albino.
That one's beautiful, by the way. But I don't know. I just don't know a lot of morphs. Like I said, I really don't
So
know.
lately, we've seen a lot of different granite genes come out. Let's see here. I'm working with Voodoo, which has been around since like 2019. So it's a newer mutation proven by Bob Vu of Bob's Balls.
Okay.
And now we're seeing the Cosmos. There's a few other mutations that are in the same complex, they seem. I can't think of them off the top of my head, but a lot of these are granity genes, and to me, they remind me of like Justin's. The Cosmos, especially, reminds me of Justin Kavilka's J2 granite line, which he now calls the Pixel. Except the Cosmos is almost like 2 pixels stacked already, and it's only a codom. So when you breed 2 Cosmos, you get a super, and the super is like 4 times what a super pixel would look like. So it's a stronger genetic, it's a stronger genetic morph that seems to play around in the same complex, or at least the same um, mutations in different combos. It's just a lot stronger. And trying to think if there's anything else off the top of my head that's new. Or
See, I never heard of Voodoo
Spartan
until
is
right now.
newer.
Or
Spartan is a
Cosmo.
newer morph.
Yeah, Spartan. I've heard of Spartan.
Yeah, there's the Trojan, which we all know and have heard of, but now there's the Spartan, which is coming out. And my buddy at Hub City Koi and Reptiles is really working that project hard, him and his buddy. And then you have also like KG at Bomb Projects. They got the LC. They called it the LC Black Magic, but they dropped the Black Magic off the end of it because the Black Magic is actually like a mutation of like Black Pastel and Mojave from back in the 90s or back in the early 2000s. So now you have the LC, and that he showed off the super in one of his lives, and the super LC is one of the darkest super ball python mutations that has ever been seen. And it'll be interesting to see what they do with it to try to push that further, because it does have pattern and it does have potential with other mutations because it has pattern. It's not just an all black snake.
Hmm, interesting. That'd be interesting to see. So what all like I don't know if he already said. Did he say what projects he was working with?
No, that was backstage.
Oh, okay. I was like trying to remember. That's why I was like, did I already ask that? But it was backstage. All right. So go ahead and tell us what projects you're trying to work with, or
All right,
trying
so
to focus on.
I'm currently invested into Hypo Ultramel Clown Pied project, um, Hypoexanthic DG Clown projects, Hypoexanthic Clown projects. Those are going to be involving the MJ line Exanthic. Everything else is going to be involving the VPI line Exanthic until I can work the MJ line into those projects. But at that point, they're going to be like 5 hets instead of 4.
Dang.
So, because then it's going to be Hypoexanthic Clown Pied with the DG at that point once I work it in. But for right now, the MJ Exanthic is basically solitary to the Hypoexanthic Piebalds, or Clown Pied, sorry. And then I have an Exanthic, or Exanthic Lavender Clown project, which is the Lavender Snow Clown. Which a lot of this stuff, I'm not necessarily shooting for clown in all of it, but I like clown. And if I hit clown, I'm not disappointed by it, you know? But I'm definitely working towards trying to get more codon mutations, because a lot of these have multiple codons already in the projects themselves. So when I say ramble off the recessive mutations, that's just the staple of the project, so to say. DG Exanthic Pieds. Don't have too much in that project, but it's an expensive project to invest in, so I'll get there. Right now, I have a possible super leopard triple het VPI Exanthic DG Pied, and then I have a couple triple het females. So nothing really codom worked in there except for the leopard, but another one that I want to get into, I have paint. I have paint in my
I've
projects. I
heard
have a
paint.
paint male, I should say, and I haven't exactly decided which direction to take him to get paint into my stuff, but I can put him anywhere. And one of the projects I want to focus on with him is Hypo Clown with paint, but I also want to do Hypo Puzzle paint. So those are 2 directions I want to work paint into. Um, Sentinel is also another name for paint, if anyone's unaware. If you see Sentinel
I was
stuff,
gonna say
that's
that. I was gonna
paint.
say is Sentinel same as paint because I've heard that before too.
Yeah, they're genetically the same. So, and I have puzzle. I actually have a good amount of animals in puzzle, so um, I'm going to be working puzzle on its own, but I'm also going to be working puzzle into Ultramel and Sunset too. And Sunset Clown are 2 of my other projects that I'm working into other things.
So as you progress in your project, does it get harder? I imagine it gets harder like when you start adding more and more of those combos and stuff. And do you have to like kind of accommodate for like genetic diversity and things like that? Like I know like when you're breeding lots of snakes and stuff together, like how do you address that?
Like identification after you produce babies.
Well, like just like the health, I guess, of the snakes as well, because like you're trying to breed them for a very particular trait, but in the process, sometimes you lose genetic diversity along the way,
I
like in
understand
other
what you're saying.
areas. Yeah.
So, luckily, a lot of that work in projects has been done over the past 2 decades. So, just like piebalds, they came in the early 2000s. Peter Call was a big promoter of them and breeder of them.
Mhm.
And he had a very diverse collection of pieds. He pretty much snagged every pied out of Africa that came in as a visual pied that he could. And we actually saw multiple Xanthic lines come out of his stock of piebalds. The Xanthic VPI and the MJ line both came out of Peter Call's piebalds. So those are two that I know for sure came out of his line of piebalds. I think there was maybe not Xanthics, but maybe another couple mutations that came out of those pies. I think leopard was one of them. But his work with the piebalds early on and getting so many in as many in as he could from Africa really diversified that from the beginning. But then you had people that would buy one single male piebald for $15,000, breed it to a normal female, because normals back then was they were worth their weight in gold. So if you had a 2,000 gram female, you could sell her for roughly $2,000 because you could stick a $10,000 male piebald to her, and you could produce all het pied babies that would sell for $35 to $500 or $5,000. So the diversity got diluted in that sense, where people were buying a male, breeding it, holding back babies from that male, breeding those to the male, and then they were just keeping their line of pieds. And line breeding back then wasn't as frowned upon for new mutations as it is today. I think today we prove out a mutation and then we try to get it into other stuff once it's proven. And that really helps diversify the bloodline, because if I prove out, say, the puzzle, not necessarily the puzzle, but say that was a new mutation and I proved it out, and it's like, all right, I've bred this back into itself for 4 years now. I've proven it. It's genetically, viable. Now I want to see what it can do in this project or that project. And now I'm taking that male and I'm moving him around and I'm getting in with different females, different genetics, different bloodlines. And then from those bloodlines, you have to breed them back into each other to reproduce double recessives, triple recessives, things like that. But once you hit that visual animal, you move those animals into other projects that maybe, Justin or maybe some other smaller breeder is working a really deep project and they got some other codoms into it with the heterozygous that you need. And you're like, all right, I need that cypress honey het for clown because I don't have that in my clown stuff. So now that genetic diversity comes over from their projects. You
Okay,
see, so
I get that.
nowadays we don't really have to worry about that as much as back in the day when it was a very smaller population and a very much more diluted bloodline
I got you.
with
Yeah, the
individual
community is
ones.
very vast, so the genetic diversity is always there somehow. And when you
Yeah,
experiment with the different projects, then you kind of don't have to really worry about that.
and we're always gonna be pouring stuff back into itself, but it's there's certain mutations that maybe only one mutation came in, then it was proven out. And ever since then, that bloodline has been so diversified that we have to breed it back into itself because that was only from one animal. But it's so diversified now that maybe that actually original blood is only down to 1% or 2%. So
So
it's not like you're breeding a 50% true blood animal to a 50% true blood animal consistently over 10 years, because that can actually that can actually basically create health issues, because
Yeah,
if you have, that being a scientist.
yeah.
So
The every time you rebreed something, the genetic diversity drops dramatically.
yeah,
So you're because of the probabilistic aspect, right? Like because you have a full set of genes here, full set of genes here, but when you have clutches and stuff from that, it's only a subset of that. And then if you do it
yeah.
again, it's a subset of that, and then eventually you just have all the same genes.
And that's why people believe that like super black pastels and super cinnamons can eventually produce normal animals without kinking and without duckbilling, because they think that because those animals were so inbred back in the day, it created those issues and made them stronger, and then diluting over time, especially with multiple mutations, can help that animal not get kinks and not get the duck billing, which we do see in some multi genetic combos. Like if you do a super blackhead piebald clown, whatever, like if you add 5 or 6 different morphs into it, it's less likely to have those issues. But I think with certain mutations, they're genetically linked, and you're not going to ever breed it out of them at this point. Just
Yeah.
like spider and spider complex, certain spider complex animals, they always will have that vertigo where they're imbalanced, and it's part of their genetic blueprint because some of them get it worse than others. So their genetic blueprint just says, you're going to have less caulicle bones where your ears would be, so you're going to be more wobbly.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
used to think it's neurological issues. It's not. It's a imbalancing issue.
Yeah, it's
And
the vertigo.
yeah,
But I have purchased, well, not purchased. I actually got it free. The guy sent it over. I was like, I want one of your super cinnamon, the black one,
yeah.
and it had a kink in it. It has a kink in the neck. Because I would sell it to you, but since it has a kink, I'm just gonna give it to you.
Hmm.
So like, back what I'm saying is like back then they weren't really, if they had kinks, they weren't selling them. They were just giving them away.
Yeah, but now you get into panda pies and stuff like that. People like to go. People even today like to invest in breeding for panda pies, which is a super black pastel piebald. And just this year alone, I've seen at least for sure 2 clutches that were complete failures. Every snake in the clutch was kinked or had severe issues. And
And is kinking where
those,
the spine is
Mhm.
not aligned, right?
yeah, kinking is
Okay.
where the spine gets all wacky and
It's
just
like,
like it's like this
yeah,
sometimes, like the
Yeah.
snake just can't even get straightened out. And then you have minor kinking where it's like spinal bulges and stuff like that, and the snakes are normal. And once they put fat on them and body weight, you can't even see those kinks anymore. So caramel, like I said, was one of those mutations where kinking was very prevalent.
interesting. Man, I'm learning so much right now. But then again, like I said, I stopped working with ball pythons. I stopped reading up on ball pythons. Like I just felt like, so here's my reason why I got a ball python. So let me tell you why. I got into ball pythons. I went and bought like 50 ball pythons, thinking I was gonna get rich. I did what everybody did. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Um, but later down the line, I just realized they weren't doing nothing for me. They weren't moving. They weren't. I just had a big ass rat bill trying to feed them. I mean, it wasn't what I wanted to do. The only reason I got into it is because they were like, I had a mentor. He was like, "Yeah, buy this snake, buy that snake." But I felt, now that I think about it, I felt like he led me down the wrong way, or the wrong path. He was just, I guess, getting me to spend money. That's right.
He was trying to maybe live vicariously through your
Dude,
budget.
yeah. And I mean, I still have some, but the majority are gone. Um, but I just fell out of love for the ball pythons only because now it seems like everybody's saying that the ball pythons are oversaturated. You know what I mean? There's like every day is ball pythons being produced.
Hmm.
And I've seen memes too, like up on Instagram, like, y'all need to stop breeding ball pythons. But I mean, what is your take on that? Is the question I'm coming to.
Well, my take on people saying to stop breeding them,
Yeah.
or what you've heard, well, that's just their opinion because the hobby's going to continue. People are going to continue wanting ball pythons. Kids are going to fall in love with ball pythons. It all starts when we're kids most of the time. And when a kid sees 30 different ball pythons at a reptile show, honestly, they're going to like that better than going over to a boa table where the boas kind of get mixed together because There might be an albino, a sunglow, a moonglow, something, a couple crazy ones, but the majority of that table is going to be, normal or looking boas. So a kid is going to gravitate more towards the more colorful snakes and the more colorful selection. And I think even as adults, we do that also. So I don't think that people are correct if they say not to breed something, because I know from talking to Billy Rice at Rice Reptiles, shout out, but he got his the one of the reasons why he ended up in a partnership with Justin at Canova was because Justin had trouble at one point in time keeping up with demand on a lot of things. So I know that Billy offered to become partners with Justin so that he could help with his production mainly. And you would think like, whoa, why would Justin need help with production? Well, Justin might be focusing on such deep projects that his production is more limited on the stuff for the market. So having a partner that's going to help you produce more helps you keep your numbers up so that you don't run out before the end of the year. And it's crazy to think somebody with a facility as big as Justin would want more production. But that goes to show you where this market is. The market, in season, after baby season, morph market usually has an average about 60,000 snakes for sale. Right now, morph market, I think, has roughly half of that. So a lot of those animals on there are the so to say leftovers, where a lot of them are desirable to people still, but those high stakes animals that people are like, that's for sale, I'm going to buy it right now before someone else does, are already mostly sold. So if you can't keep production up for high demand animals, then that's where partnerships can come in handy. So that's, I think, where that partnership was kind of flourished from, because Billy's producing top end stuff, and the market holds its balance. So if you're producing really high end stuff, how many breeders out there are working with high end stuff?
Not many. Only the big guys.
A lot of breeders are working with high end stuff. If you look at the markets of a lot of these smaller breeders, they're in triple recessive projects. They're in quad recessive projects. Are they producing triple visuals and quad visuals yet? No, but they're investing because they want to be on that level, that next level. And if you're a breeder and you're not trying to get on that next level, then you're going to be left behind in the market sense, because your animals they're not going to be in high demand. And those are going to be the 30,000 snakes that sit on morph market through the year until next year and beyond, because you want to be pushing the envelope in the sense that you want to create high demand animals, or else you're not going to be selling them, especially after 4 years of making the same stuff.
So you're saying to invest big, pretty much.
I'm not saying to always invest big, but I'm saying, don't let yourself fall behind. If it's a project that you're passionate about, look at the next level of where you want to be and find a payment plan. If you want a snake that is a little bit out of your range, put a deposit down, make the payments on it. Most breeders will offer you 90-day payment plans if they have the capability. I'm going to be able to do that once I have animals for sale, because I want people not only to buy my stuff, but I want people to invest on that higher level. That's why I'm breeding higher level stuff, higher level projects, because, my projects are, triple recessive, quad recessive projects. But just in this project alone, my hypoexanthic DG clown project, I have already in my project, that one project, I already have yellow belly, redhead, spot nose, chocolate, black pastel, leopard, blackhead, super redhead possibilities, super chocolate possibilities, super spot nose possibilities, red stripe fire, and bongo, just in that one quad recessive project. So when I start producing animals out of that project for sale, I'm going to have a lot of mid-range stuff as far as mid-range for what I could hit. So the top range for what I could hit is insane. The low range for what I can hit is affordable. The mid-range for what I can hit is something that most people would probably still need a payment plan for. So if you're not going to offer somebody an avenue of buying your stuff that's maybe a little bit more expensive, it's going to be also harder for you to move those animals.
Hey,
And
Jared,
that's,
I like the way you put that because that made a lot of sense to me.
thank you.
And then, like, literally, like, now that I'm thinking about what I want to work with, it literally just, like, lit another passion in me. So I'm the kind of guy, like, if somebody says I can't do something, it lights a fire into my ass. Like, oh, you're not going to succeed in that. You're not going to succeed in this. You know, but if you put your mind to it, like you just said, you're working with a project, and that's a project you like, you invest in big. And that, I don't know, that lit something up inside me, too. So appreciate
A
the way
lot
you
of
said that.
breeders will tell you, thank you. A lot of breeders will tell you, invest in a male, and your females don't matter as much. But I don't have that same view. I mean, if it's in your budget
What's up,
and that's
Chris?
what you can do, right? What's up, man? So if it's in your budget and that's all you can do, then do what's within your means. But if you have a budget that you can invest in better females and get a male after 6 months after investing in those females, that is either breeder ready or one to raise up, then that's the route that I personally take, because I don't want to have this crazy male that I'm breeding to a single gene het female or a single gene double het female. I would prefer to have a crazy 5 gene triple het or a crazy 5 gene single recessive double het or single visual double het male, and I would rather have a triple or quad codom female with those same hets, because then when you breed those two animals together, you're going to be hitting all these crazy visual codom combinations that are going to either carry visual, carry 100% hets or carry 66% hets. And now, before genetic testing, I think that a lot more people would jump on those 66% possibilities, whereas nowadays people are like, oh, will you test it for me? And it's like, I think the breeders that allow people to test before purchase it's personally, in my opinion, no hate on them, but I think that's a wrong way of doing it. I would never personally let somebody test one of my animals before they purchase it, because it's not my probability, it's yours. And if you want to invest in it, I'm selling it. If I wanted to invest in that probability, I would keep it. So if I allow you to test for something that's 66% possible and it comes back not het, now I lost my market for that animal, because now I have to sell it as what it is with
They
no
need to pay a
heterozygous.
premium for the uncertainty. Essentially,
The
that's all it is.
markup isn't even that
Yeah.
insane though. So people nowadays aren't really marking up a 50 or 66% het animal. Like I said, I bought a Cypress Honey 66% het clown for $400. So that Cypress Honey without that 66% was maybe right around the same value, maybe $100 cheaper for the non-het. So, but what that does is that gives me a possibility for the extra $100 that I bought a $1,200 snake. And if I didn't, then I paid an extra $100 to slightly gamble something. But I'm gambling on my own knowledge, because I'm looking at that as a het clown possibly. So I'm looking for those markers. I'm looking for the brighter whites coming up into alien heads. I'm looking for the more elongated stripe behind the neck. I'm looking for all the little things that we've learned over time that would indicate that it should be carrying that trait. So, but what I was getting to though is, if I had that guy test it and I was like, hey,
Mm,
test that animal for me, and it came back as non-het. Now, yeah, he only lost $100 value, but he also lost 5,000 people that were interested in it as a possible het. So now they don't want it anymore because there's no possibility, and they wanted it for their clown project. So now you're
mm.
limiting your own market by allowing people to test your animals.
I
I see
gotcha.
what you're saying. Okay, hold on. Before we go any further, I want to let Jared plug himself first, where people can find you. Because Jared's dropping some heat right now.
Mainly on Instagram under Selective Creations LLC. I do have a Facebook page that is where I share stuff from Instagram over to. Occasionally, I'll post up stuff. I'll be posting more over there once I start having babies and you know egg egg cuttings and stuff like that. But mainly my source right now is Instagram, and I do have a website that's coming soon. Probably going to be next year. I already own it, but that's just selectivecreations.com. And so Instagram's mainly where you're going to find me.
That's dope. Let's go. Where do you see yourself? So my next question for you, well, do you have any shout outs first off before we even jump into another question?
Yeah, shout out to all the Florida crew. Jen Kate at Cigar City Exotics, Steve's Morphs, Jeremy Bob's Exotic Reptiles. Shout out to Rice Reptiles. He's been a really great friend since we've met in person. I hope to do some projects and things with him in the future for sure. Um, Shout out to Carly Strange. She's coming up in the green tree python community and that world. I have a lot of friends over there. Patrick Holmes of Texas Chondros, TX Chondros. Mark Hager is Texas Chondros, but he's also a friend of mine. Just, I know so many people, I can keep going. But yeah, those are the main ones. The Florida crew for the ball pythons. That's who I'd mainly shout out right now. Keys Constrictors. We get down on Hair Down Fridays. Thanks
With
for, thanks Keys for having me on and letting me join as a panel member.
oh yeah, love that. That's good. So Carly is Morella, right?
Yeah, Morelia.
Okay, I had her on.
Coastal
Yeah.
Morelia. Yeah.
Okay, so I had her on with Chuck and them last week, right? That was her.
Yep.
Yeah, last week it was the Chondro one.
Yeah, and she was recently on MJ's Trap Talk too.
Yeah, saw that one.
Yeah, and I
Interesting stuff
mean,
on.
she shows me some heat that she just went up to Maryland to pick up. She only released one of the animals on her page today for the public to see. But I'll tell you what, man, keep an eye on her page. She just picked up some crazy animals. One of them being a male, and if you're into green tree pythons, this thing is not green.
Well, she's actually gonna be one I'm gonna buy my first one from.
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
she told me like when I get my money together to hit her up, and that's where I'm
Yeah,
going.
she'll definitely
So,
work with you too.
so I'm definitely gonna go there
She
because I
doesn't
love
have
the
to, though.
yellow
I'll tell
one.
you that
Yeah,
much. Those
she
green tree
definitely don't.
pythons. So I was looking at one from her recently, and things came up, and I had to kind of change directions. But so I told her, I have to pass on it for now, and she sold it the next day, full payment, and those things are like $3,500.
Yeah, I know.
You
That's why I'm
know,
like, okay, yeah, I'll
there's no problem selling those things. So but they're worth it.
definitely.
It takes 5 years for a female to even get to breeder size.
It's a long investment.
Yeah, so
I mean, I could
it's
do
a
that.
big
I mean,
investment up front because they're not cheap. There's a lot of things that can happen from the
mhm.
time that they're a neonate until they're 5 years. There's been a lot of horror stories where people were raising up, really expensive designer animals, and they either had renal failure, they had blockages from rat fur, get caught up in their colon, and then they pass. And that's what makes them so expensive, is the unsurety to even get them to breeding age. And then when you are successful, trying to get them to breed in general. They're not the easiest species to breed. And, certain people like Ian Bessel of S&J Reptiles, it's another shout out. So that's one of my boys. And Drew Russell of Hypochondriac Chondros. Those are two of my longtime friends in the community over there. And both Florida boys. But those two guys, you can look at their success and think, wow, that's easy, because they have really good success rates every year as far as producing clutches and hatching babies. And Bill Stiegel of Phoenix Reptiles, he has yearly success with his pairings. But those are guys who have established adults. Some of those adults are 7 to 10 years old, and they have been able to breed them consistently with giving them years off so that they can recover, not breeding them, and then, breeding something else in the meantime in hopes that that takes. But they have their stuff dialed in. And with green tree pythons, they're not hard to take care of if you want one as a pet. You can have one as a pet, successfully keep it very easily, especially with the community help that we offer in Morelia Veritas forums and stuff. They're not any harder than ball pythons, really. But as far as breeding them, having success with that side of it, you have to be dialed in. And if you're not, then you're not producing viable clutches.
And they also say it's not for the weak-hearted because, like you say, it could die or something could happen. And
I mean, I'll answer that in a minute, Banna. But I mean, you have people who will have a successful clutch of 20 eggs, and in the end, only end up with one egg that
like,
survives
yeah,
and hatches, and then that snake might hatch and die after 2 weeks. You know, that's the type of like horror stories that you see with those species, and it's not easy. That's for sure.
It's just nature, right? And you just
Yeah.
have to play the numbers and have large numbers so that you can see that success happen.
Yeah. So to Banna's question, I've not personally been able to work with any scrubs. I've worked with them as far as in other people's collections, not my own, because they were banned in Florida with the Lacey Act that was passed.
damn. Everything was banned for y'all guys. That
Yeah,
sucks.
anything over 10 feet. So, the biggest snakes that we're allowed to keep are true red tip boas.
Okay. Okay, so my question was, where do you see yourself in 2 to 5 years?
In 2 years, so this is also part of the market too. So I invested recently in a lot of babies to grow up because I don't want to be producing high
Listen,
numbers in this market right now, especially with all the people, like the high numbers of people that you see trying to sell collections. I think last week I was hit up by like 4 random people about, do you want to buy my collection? I don't, because I'm investing in what I want to work with. I don't want to take on a full collection that anybody else invested in. That's my main reason to say no. Um, but with the market the way it is, a lot of people are getting out. A lot of people think that, ball python market's a roller coaster. If you haven't been around since the early 2000s, you don't really know that.
yeah,
I mean, if you've been around since the 2010s, early 2010s, then you have a better idea of that. But even big breeders over the earlier years got out in the low times because they thought that this was the end of ball pythons. They're not coming back. And during that time, Justin was just starting off, and I seen Justin go through investing into a low market, trying to sell heterozygous animals at his first show, as he talks about in his podcasts, not selling a single snake at his first show because that the market didn't really accommodate to single hets at the time, as well as, visuals and stuff like that. So he could have easily gotten shied away from it and dipped out, but he didn't because he had a vision for himself. And that's what I have. I have a vision for myself. This has been my passion to to create a business out of since I was a kid. I mean, I remember when I was 8 years old, people would ask me what I wanted to be as when I grew up, and I'd be like a herpetologist. They're like, oh, jokingly, adults being perverted, but it'd be like, oh, someone that studies herpes, and I'll be like, no, somebody that studies reptiles and amphibians. And I would be like, just on them about it, like making jokes, and I'm like, no, like I want to be somebody that does this for the rest of my life. It's my passion, reptiles, amphibians. I like dogs. Dogs I love. I'm allergic to cats, furrier animals, even dogs. I have a slight allergy to, but I don't hate any animals. It's just like I gravitate towards reptiles and amphibians, mainly the reptiles. And sitting on that dial-up computer, just hoping a phone call didn't come in so I could keep scrolling through the Snake Keeper's website and seeing what kind of, what kind of blogs they were putting out, what kind of things they were doing. Like, I wanted to be that person that was putting those blogs out and getting people hyped because they were changing the market at the time. Not the market, but the hobby, because the market was smaller, a lot smaller. So they were changing the hobby during those years. And when someone brought in a new mutation, it would be a new spark. So everybody would be like, wow, that is cool. I hope it proves out. And then there was a lot of things that didn't prove out, but then you'd see more similar mutations or animals from the wild come in that looked similar, and you'd go, maybe that one will prove out. So people would buy it, and then they would try to prove it out. And that's how the Harlequin morph came about. So Harlequin ball pythons were very heavily imported back in the day, but there was so many that didn't prove that people just stopped buying them from the importers. And they're like, yeah, it's a cool ball python. It's just a cool normal though. And eventually somebody, got one. They're like, I'm going to try to prove it. And it stuck, and it was genetic. And that's how the Harlequin was produced. There was probably 50 wild import or more ball pythons with the same look that didn't prove out genetic until that one.
Oh, damn. I didn't even know there was a Harlequin gene or morph. Sorry.
Yeah, Harlequin is typically a striped dorsal with more of like a rolling wave alien head pattern instead of your typical, alien head with the two eyes.
I'm going to Google that real quick. But my next question is how big do you want to be? And
I
do
want
you
to be
have
able to
any
support
aspirations
myself.
of being the next Canova or Babo?
I don't want to compare myself to anybody, but as far as size goes, I want to be, I want to have my own facility that I work at every day, that I have to hire people to help me. That's definitely my vision, and I definitely see myself getting there. Now, saying that now to some people might be silly, but
It's not.
I know where I'm gonna be because that's that's where I see myself. So, you know, I believe in myself to get there. And that's one of the biggest things, because beliefs are only in things that you don't know, you know. I don't
And I feel
know.
like you're not going to give up either. You're going to
I
get there.
don't know where I'll be, but I believe that I'm going to get to the point where I want to get to. And in my head, that's an individual facility that I sustain my own life with, and I can move away from electric because I've broken my hand so many times over my life that I can't do electrical forever because it's a very intensive a hand
Yeah.
intensive job. I have to always be putting my hands in tight electrical boxes and, stretching out wire, using my hand muscles all the time. If it wasn't for my career of electrical, my hands would have probably seized up years ago. That's how many times I've broken them earlier on when I was younger.
Damn.
I mean, I'll just show you.
Oh, damn.
That that's my knuckle.
It's like all the way back there.
Well, my knuckles up here, but this is all just
Yeah,
bone
his
cartilage, scar
bone is
tissue.
Yeah, I
This
see it.
one's
That's
this
why I was
one's
like,
angled down. So yeah, I mean, my
damn,
right hand is the worst one as far as multiple breaks. This one I've only broken one time. That's all it took was one time.
man.
So I know that I'm not going to be able to use my hands doing electrical forever, but I think that without my career of using my hands constantly, I think that my hands would be in a lot worse shape now. And, you know, carpal tunnel will eventually set in and all those nasty things. And I needed something to, I needed something to invest in to fall back on. That's another reason why I'm investing into my knowledge so deeply, because if there's anything I'm more knowledgeable about than electrical, it's snakes and definitely ball python genetics.
Man, I'm just like everything you just said today, man. It's a learning experience for me and David because, like I said, I stopped reading into balls. And, I got away from that. I did the retics and started reading into retics, learning the localities like the Jampea, Kalatoa, and all that. You know,
Get you some orange ghost stripe platinum stuff.
I know.
I don't know a lot about retics, but I just know Jay Brewer's always pulling that stuff out of eggs, going, "This is a world's first." Look at this
but
thing right
but
here.
you're not lying though. You're not lying though. He always saying, "Oh, this is the world's first." And every time I
Yeah.
see a video of him, he's always like, "Oh, it's the world's first." Like, how do you know that? Like off the
Nah,
rip. That's what gets me.
nowadays you can't say that. I think in the retic world it's a lot different, and he knows better than anybody because he's produced so many worlds firsts that he's still on that cusp as an individual, whereas other people, have to buy those from him to be on that same cusp of world's first. So I think with him, he probably is producing world's firsts. But as far as the ball python community, these genetics are so widespread. There's so many things that people haven't seen that other people just don't want to be publicly recognized for. Back in the day, it was a race to be the first one to put your name on World of Ball Pythons. Like even as when I was younger, I was like, I'm gonna make a world's first and have my name on World of Ball Pythons. Yeah, right. Okay, whatever. I honestly look at World of Ball Pythons now and I'm like, that snake's misidentified because it was a race back then. So people were like submitting snakes that they're like, well, this is different. So this must be, a fire calico whatever, and then they'd submit it, they get approved, and now today we're producing that combination. And when people, compare it to the World of Ball Python snake photos, they're like, that's not this. It's just
yeah.
not the same snake. And they're misrepresented on World of Ball Pythons a lot more than anything nowadays.
It's a variant that resembles the other one, but it doesn't have the Gen X, right?
Not even that. Like, gosh, I was looking up a genetic combo recently, and I was trying to do comparisons off of World of Ball Pythons. And when I looked it up, I'm like, that's a pastel het red xanthic gargoyle looking animal. Like I already knew the genetics of it really, without actually reading it. I could just look at the picture and be like, that's not the snake I'm looking for because I know what that is already. But back when it was submitted, it was one of the, first of its kind, and it was just misrepresented, and people got it approved under the wrong genetic combo.
Mm.
So
Hmm. I see what
so
you're
you see
saying.
a lot of that. You see a lot of that where things were approved and they weren't the proper genetic combo in the photo representation. And
Boso's like,
then
hmm.
you'll also see snakes. You'll go on to World of Ball Pythons and you'll look for a genetic combination. And the first picture might be that combination, and then it might have 5 photos after it. And all those 5 photos, you can tell that there's an extra morph in this one and an extra morph in that one, and they're all represented as that same simple combo. But unless you have the genetic knowledge from all of the years prior, you wouldn't really be able to pick it out and say, well, that's different because it's got an extra gene in it. you would actually misrepresent your own snakes if you're doing comparables on that website
Hmm.
all the
Interesting.
time.
I wonder both. So it's like, I didn't even know that either.
So
Yeah.
that's why Selective's having his own website now. Coming soon.
So I'm gonna get a little personal. Okay. He's like, go ahead, shoot. Um, so the question is like, what separates you from everyone else?
I wouldn't say anything separates me from anyone else currently, but what's going to separate me from other people is my willingness to pivot. I'm not always going to drive myself into the same hole. I'm always pivoting. I'm even pivoting now. Like, I'm seeing things that I was imagining in my head this year starting to get produced. So now it's like, all right, these people are already producing those snakes that I had a vision for. Now I have that animal in front of me and it's no longer a vision. So I have to pivot to the next level. I'm always going to be pivoting to the next level. If somebody hits something that I am going for, I want to think of what I can add to it to be on the next level before or equal to their success. So Justin Kabilka just this year hit a blackhead leopard clown pied, I think it was. Maybe black pastel was involved also. So one of my project females that I bought was a blackhead leopard cinnamon clown het pied female because I wanted all those genetics in one snake that could produce that same animal that he just hit. But now the male that I'm going to be breeding to that snake is hopefully going to get me 3 levels ahead so that when I'm producing my babies from her, I'm producing stuff that's on the level of him so that either A, I can beat him there, or B, we can meet there at the same point, or maybe I'm just slightly behind. But it's all about not catching up, but but adding your own twist while trying to catch up at the same time. So if you're just trying to catch up to a bigger breeder, you're gonna always be behind.
You agree?
But if you're trying to put your own twist on something, not only may you catch up if you're investing in the right animals, but you might also take that project in an entire different direction because he hasn't worked it in yet. His projects might be adding red stripe and spot nose and well, not spot nose because spot nose and pied doesn't really work. It creates a more white snake. But maybe his vision is to add like pinstripe and red stripe and a couple other mutations into that same combination. Whereas I want to add, hypo, and I want to add super blackhead, and I want to add cypress into that, or OD cypress and yellow. Like I have my own different genetic combinations that I want to get into that same female to produce hopefully an animal that will take that project and I'll be at that level but on a different path. And that's what I think is going to separate me ultimately is I'm going for projects that I like while at the same time trying to get to the next level a lot earlier than just chasing. I'm not trying to chase, I'm trying to pivot at like right from the beginning.
Great answer. I like that. You got a question, David, or no?
No, I think I was gonna add. So yeah, I think really it's innovation. He seems to, figure out and kind of like a snake. Like you can't just follow along. Sometimes you have to kind of, you know, pivot a little. Like you say, pivot, go in a different direction. And it seems like you're driven. It seems like you're hungry. For whatever it is that you're looking for. So you're going to find a way to get somewhere, wherever that's going to be.
Like some things that I want to do. Like the only single recessive project that I have is clown, because I like making just single recessive clown stuff, but I want stacked codoms, obviously. Like this year we saw the Cypress special, I think, spot nose clown combos that were like orange and white. I can't remember the exact genetics, but those orange and white snakes that Justin showed off at Tinley for the first time. And
Oh,
when
I
I
saw the
saw
pic of
those,
those.
when I
Yeah,
saw those blew me away. I was like, I could never even imagine a snake like that except coming out of my creepy crawler machine when I was 8 years old, you know? And
that was amazing.
that
Yeah,
that ignited me, man. I'm like, wow. I said, I don't even know what I could do with that type of project. But if I was gonna say I'm chasing a project, like I'm not going for that specific one, but that's one that definitely caught my attention. That's like, I want to make one of those one day. But I want to invest in animals that have 2 or 3 genes each more than what can produce that, so that when I'm making and I'm going for my ultimate goal in the project, those animals, because they've already been produced, are actually the byproduct of my main goal. Because if I do make one,
Yeah.
I don't want it to be the top snake in my project. I want the top snake in my project to have super orange dream or something, you
Yeah.
know? So
It's a
that way,
subset. It's a subset of the population genetics, but the pinnacle is something else.
exactly. Because if you're just trying to make that animal your top goal, he's going to be, not him, but other top breeders are already going to be pushing that project 3 layers or 3 levels ahead of you. So that's where investing into the project, but adding your own twist from the beginning and pivoting from the beginning really takes like paramount. Because if you can buy animals that are going to pivot your direction on the top level and make those animals that you're seeing and that you want byproducts in the mid level, then you're going to be able to create your own changes in the market. So he comes out with a crazy snake and it changes the market for all the genes involved, right?
yeah.
Just like when Ben Rennick produced the first spot nose clown. I bought 2 weeks prior to that spot nose clown coming out, I bought a spot nose male het for clown at a show for $150 that they didn't even care to get rid of. They were like, "Yeah, go ahead, take it. I'll give it to you for $100." And I bought it. And I bought it because I loved spot nose ever since I first saw it. It was a strong pattern mutation. It brightened up the dorsal, and it uniformed all the alien heads. And those 3 things really caught my attention just to that single gene trait. And then when they produced the Powerball, not knowing that it had wobble issues or anything like that, just the genetic look of the snake, I was floored. I was like, Powerballs are awesome, you know? And once the news came out that they had the same like spider wobble issues, the vertigo issues, it shied me away from it, and I didn't want to go for Powerballs or anything like that. But that was back in the day, obviously. But back to my point, I bought that spot nose het clown male for $100 because I just loved the genetic morph itself, and I wanted to work with it. And 2 weeks later, the spot nose clown came out, and I was floored, just like everybody else in the hobby. Everybody's like, "Wow, that is the craziest clown combo that we have ever seen." And within literally less than 8 hours, you went on to Fauna Classifieds and BallPython.net and KingSnake.com, and you searched for a spot nose het clown in the forums, and none of them were less than $1,500. They had all like 10. They all multiplied by 10 times the value, and it's like, if you can create mutations, especially nowadays, that can pivot an already, prominent project in most people's collections and most people's eyes, then now they're chasing you, so to say, in what you're doing. Because if you can take this snake that they love and put your own twist on it that works, now those people are going to come and be, so to say, chasing your projects. So that's, I think, where setting yourself apart is really, that's really like one of the only ways that you can set yourself apart in this hobby.
I just I get what you're saying, but at the same time, I feel like everybody's like chasing after that. You know what I mean? So it's like a circle. I guess I'm trying to say it's like I'm chasing you, you're chasing somebody else. You know?
But like you said, that you're just trying to produce your own clown pies, right?
Yeah.
So you're not necessarily chasing somebody that, like, you're not trying to catch up. And I don't mean chasing a project as far as like trying to catch up or anything like that. I just mean chasing those genetics that have been created and molded into a snake that you enjoy. So you're
Yeah.
chasing after a snake that you really love and want to produce yourself. So when you produce an animal that gains a following, they don't necessarily want to beat you to the next level. Like I'm saying, I want to pivot projects from the beginning and put my own twist on things and create my own wow factor in projects so that people want to chase the snakes that I make. Not because they're chasing me, but because they're chasing after that animal. So at that point, if you make something that's world renowned, like those orange and white snakes, now you see a lot more people investing into special cypress stuff, het clown, because they want to make that snake, not necessarily because they want the value of it or they want, to be the next Canova or nothing like that, but because they just want that snake. And if you can create a market for an animal, all the genes that follow it are going to have a market change for at least a short amount of time. And a short amount of time being, usually a couple of years at minimum.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
So don't get it
Let's.
wrong. I don't mean like chasing things as far as like in a non-humble way where people are just trying to chase and chase and chase, like nothing like that. I just mean like trying to go after the snakes that you enjoy and want to create yourself. Like people are still buying ingredients to make their own Batmans. Why? Because that's a snake that they fell in love with 5 years ago or 6 years ago or however long ago. And now they have the money to invest in those ingredients to make that snake that they've always dreamt of. And yeah, they can go out and they can buy that snake a lot cheaper than investing the feeding and time into those animals that it's going to take to produce one themselves. But that's their chase.
Batman's back then were like 5 grand though, right?
Yeah, you can get a Batman nowadays for about $1,000, but people are still buying the ingredients and saying like, I just want to make a Batman. And there's nothing wrong with that. We can't put those people down because those people are the ones that sustain the lower parts of the hobby. People who want to just produce something because they love that animal. I remember for the longest time, I used to say, I just want to produce my own clown. Like literally, that's all I really wanted to produce for many years was just my own first clown. And I never had that opportunity earlier on when I was younger to invest in the genetics to just produce my own clown. So when I got old enough, I eventually was like, all right, my passions want to push me further than just a clown. So I'm going to invest in different ingredients that are incorporated into that clown so I can go for a different snake. But at the same time, I want to put my own twist and I have the knowledge to where I can say, I think that this and that will look really cool on top of it. And if it hasn't been produced, then it's just a belief. So if someone produced it already, then I know that it's something that I want, but you have to invest in your beliefs. And if you're not investing in your beliefs, then all you're doing is kind of breeding for snakes that you want because you like them.
So like the only thing I wanted to do was produce babies and be called the breeder, for ball pythons, because I think that's what everybody shoots for, right? So I ended up breeding ghost banana head pie to calico head pie, and I got my banana. I hit the banana calico head pie head ghost,
That's a
and
good pairing, man.
I was excited. I was excited because it was my first clutch, and I hit it. I had the little baby. He's still up there. He's the run. He was the run of the litter, so I kept him.
But at the same time, if we don't have people like you that are trying to go for those snakes that they just want to produce, we're not going to have those animals on the market, because guys like us, that like me, like at the level I want to invest in, I won't be making those animals, you know? I won't be making animals that even fit that market most of the time. So without the smaller breeders that are just going for projects that they have, you know, pet projects, passion projects, that they want to produce something because they love it, those are the people who are feeding the entrance to the hobby. The kids that go to the shows that see the smorgasbord of colors on the table. You know, at my table, their parents are going to be like, keep walking, son, you know, most of the time. And at someone else's table, they're going to be like, oh, that snake's only $200. That snake's only $500. Let's check it out. Let's see if we can hold it. So those people are a staple in this hobby, because without those people producing those animals and going for those things that they like, we don't have enough animals to supply the introduction to the hobby.
Mm. Yeah,
I
no,
see what you're
Vanessa.
saying.
Vanessa was talking about it when she was talking about her reptile shop and everything. A lot of people get normals. Like there's kids that just want the normal thing, and it really, fuels the passion and just has people, interacting with reptiles and animals and stuff too.
And because I don't, because my visions are so far beyond, you know, show markets, I would call it, because I see a show market, excuse me, I see a show market as a snake from $100 to about $1,000. And the people who are spending more than $1,000 are probably investing a little bit into their breeding plans. So you can still have those animals at shows, but you're not going to necessarily get as many people walking across your table that are looking for those animals. So my balance is I'm getting my son involved. My son's only 7, so he already owns, gosh, I don't know, at least 7 snakes, and he loves it. You know, his first snake back like 5 years ago was an albino ball python, and I moved. I had to sell everything, his snake included,
And
and recently, you know, last year or 2022, no, it was last year, like that early 2023, when I really started investing again. I was at a show without him, and I was like, there's an albino leopard piebald, and it's 350. I'm gonna see if they'll take 200, and if they take 200, that's my son's new snake. And he called his first albino Noodles. So when I brought it home, I let him open it when he came back over, and I was like, you know, I got you a snake. And he opened it, and he basically cried tears of joy, and he was like, oh my God, it's my Noodles.
that's
And
what we live for, right?
yeah, and it was really heartwarming for me to see him relate that new snake back to his old snake. But at the same time, he didn't have any kind of like, this isn't my snake, this isn't my original snake. Like, he didn't care. Like, and that's the beauty of it. But now, since he does have that passion for snakes in general, um, I let him earn money to go to his first reptile show with me, and he haggled, bartered, I'll say. He bartered with one vendor that had a banana fire het piebald female, and he walked up and they're like, oh, what are you looking for? And I was like, he's just shopping for himself. He earned his own money. I'm letting him look, and he's going to pick something out himself. And he was looking at the bananas and he was like, "Oh, I really like this banana right here. Is it a girl?" Because at this point, he already knew. Like, I already
Yeah.
told him, like, you can't buy a male. You got to buy females first because a male's not going to help you with breeding until the females are old enough. And he already understood that he needed a female. So he's like, "Oh, I don't want that one. It's a boy. What about this one? It's a girl, right?" And they were like, "Yeah, it's a girl." And they're like, "How much money do you have?" And he was like, "Well, I'm not going to tell you that right now. I want to know how much that snake is," because he couldn't really read too well at the time, like numbers, and like he's really getting better at reading now. He can read just about everything. But like a year and a half ago, not as well. And it's actually my buddy Shannon at Green Dragon Brokers. We're good friends now, but he helped barter himself down for my son, and he's like, "Well, if you got it was like a $250 snake. He's like, "Well, if you have $100, I'll let you have it right now." And my son was like, "Oh, yeah, I don't have that much, but I can give you $50." And and he goes, "Do you have $50? You have $50 that you earned all by yourself?" And he goes, "Uh-huh, all by myself." And he's like, "Sold. You can have it for $50."
That's
And that was
awesome,
just
man.
brings a tear to my eye almost. But yeah, it was really heartwarming. And after that experience, me and Shannon became good friends. I actually have a breeding project with him going on right now, but we'll touch on that in a second. But after that happened during Christmas time, there was a show up in Daytona, and I was going up there to help him sex some babies at the show, and then he surprised he surprised Lucas with a baby for free out of that clutch. And the clutch ended up being all banana piebalds, and some of them were Java from Mutation Creation as a Java line. I'm not really
Damn.
familiar with the mutation too much, but he basically was like, Shannon goes, "All right, so you bought your own female banana fire pet piebald." And he said, "I want to gift you one of these banana piebalds, and some of them are Java, but you have to take a male." And there was a male maker banana, or yeah, it was a super banana, so it's like 50-50 if they're male or female, but it was a male heavy clutch, only one female, all the rest are males. So he let Lucas pick whatever snake he wanted, basically. And so that's one of Lucas's projects is a banana piebald Java to a banana fire het piebald female, separate, separate lineage, same father but separate mom. So it's a little bit of genetic diversity in his pairing there. But what I'm getting at with that was just a nice heartwarming
That's
story.
dope.
But what I'm getting at with that is my son is now I've invested for my son for the show market. So he's going to be producing some piebald, like all visual clutch of piebalds. Some of them will be banana, some of them will be fire and Java, individually or combinations, all 100% het albino. And he'll be producing some puzzle stuff because he recently got, I actually recently picked up a pair from Jeremy Bowd. One of them was a pastel het red exanthic het puzzle male, and then the other one that I wanted was a het red exanthic yellow belly female het puzzle. So I gave the puzzle male, the het puzzle het red exanthic male to my son, and he's also got a visual OD pastel puzzle female that I decided to let him use for his breeding plans and his own
Damn.
production. Because I already have more than a few animals in my puzzle project, so I decided to just take my hets to my hets and let him have the visual female. And I already talked to him earlier this week, actually, and I told him, I said, you're going to have your own table at a show. I said, I'm going to be, 2 tables. You're going to have your side with your business name that, I'll help him get established and everything as a subsidiary company under mine. And whatever revenue that he makes out of that, the sales of his snakes is going into a savings account for him. But he's going to have those show level animals that people are going to walk by the table and be like, what the hell? This 9-year-old has his own table.
That's gonna be dope.
And
That's dope.
yeah, so he'll be 9 years old. He'll have his own table in 2 years. He'll have his own animals to sell. And most of those animals will be the ones that will sell at the shows. And then I'll have some of my stuff that I believe I can sell at the shows at a table next to his. And that's my plan as far as the shows go. I don't plan on really doing shows myself. So that helps me get there, be behind a table, have a few of my own animals for sale. But really, I want to push his passion to the next level. And at the same time, in this economy, being a single parent, it's not easy to save for future, especially for kids, without putting money into bonds and
Yeah.
trusts and stuff like that gain interest. So that's another way that I see a viable way I see of putting money away for him. And it's through his own hard work.
Yeah, you're also investing in him though, in his intellectual and entrepreneurial skills, which will carry him through, other pursuits as well. So, because eventually, he'll have a whole story, he'll have a whole narrative. Like he could possibly get like full ride scholarships, like to biology programs, things like that. So that's even much greater than maybe the money that he's putting away. Is his skills, his background.
Man,
Yeah,
you're an
for
awesome
sure.
dad, though. You are, bro. I just want to say that you're like an awesome dad doing that for your son, because that's the whole reason I got into this too. Back in
Thank
2018, I
you.
had my 2 little boys, and it started with the lizard. One of my sons wanted a lizard, my other son wanted a snake. So I had leopard geckos, I had bearded dragons, I still do. I have a day gecko, so I have those for my son. So everything I maintain is for them. It's all for them. So they call them little flexing and little finessing, you know. And they got
That's
stickers. They
awesome.
got their own stickers. I mean, I do this all for them or try to keep going for them, but I haven't seen them in. They're gonna be 2 years because they're in Hawaii. So
Oh, okay.
yeah, they're
Well,
they're overseas. Their mom married somebody who's stationed in Hawaii right now. So hmm.
gotcha. That's tough.
Oh, I don't know.
You'll
Just
see him, man. Just
you
keep.
talking like that just reminded me of me. It's just why we all do this. Is I don't know. When I see them pick out a snake or a lizard and they get it happy and excited, like they start jumping up and down, like they want that, like they're excited. It just
Yeah.
it lights something up in you, and I get it, and I see why you cry. You know, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just me, man.
Just yesterday, I was outside cleaning the rats, and I took a bag of, cleanings over to the trash can, and he was hanging out with me, and I seen 2 little frogs hopping across the driveway, little tiny white-lipped newborn tree frogs, and I caught them and I scooped them up and brought them back over. And it's like that's the one thing I always loved as a kid was frogs, and he hasn't seen too many of those, honestly. And so I, had this little critter keeper. I put them in there, made it a little wet inside so that they didn't dry out. And I, flipped it over, let the water spill out, but the inside was wet for the frogs. And I was like, here, I caught a couple frogs. And he was like, whoa, frogs are so cool, Dad.
They are
It's
though.
just like,
What was I gonna say? I bought a tree frog and I put it in a little tank, and somehow I pushed the lid off of it, got out, and I don't know. I think it died somewhere outside.
I dried out, yeah. But
Yeah.
just those little things, and they think it's the most awesome thing in the world. And he's like, Dad, I love you so much. You're the best. Just because you caught him a couple frogs and it was random. But
Yeah.
yeah, I want to invest in him. And at the same time, it's investing in myself to be able to put away for him, you know, because I'm investing in him helping me and getting a passion on his own because he already has it. He's already like he'll be sitting there and he's like, "Does Dottie have eggs in her belly yet?" And I'm like, "We haven't bred her yet." Like we have to wait until we put a male with her, and like he's starting to understand like what breeding is, and you know it takes a male and a female, and you gotta see them twist tie their
Yeah.
tails and the little things, you know, and he's gonna be there through every milestone, and they're milestones for him, but they're also gonna be, you know, the breeding part is milestones for him, but watching him grow through the process is a milestone in itself for me because I've seen those things. I've bred snakes before. So, like, those aren't milestones for me. But watching him get that same excitement when he's 9 years old of having eggs, like, my first eggs was when I was 11. So, he's going to be a little bit ahead of me.
Damn. 11. Man, I wish I was.
Well, I should say I was like 12, actually. I bred for the first time when I was 11. I think I had the eggs after my birthday.
You know, and when I was 12, I had 8 corn snakes, a hognose, and a milk snake. And, you know, and I wish I stayed with it then because, you know, but back then I was a kid. I didn't know I was going to make money selling corn snakes or, you know, how much they
Yeah.
are now. Um, so I just got out of it. I was worried about girls, the wrong things, you know.
Yeah, I didn't worry about girls until after I lost hope for the snakes as a teenager. Because, like, I was 13, I went to my first reptile show with my father, and Mojaves were pretty new at the time. Like, they were one of the newer Kodoms out, and, you know, the Savannahs were one of the first combinations that they made other than the Pastave. And, I went to this show. It was a local small show up in New York, and it was like a new show. And it was like a small room, maybe like 3,000 square feet, super small. And this one breeder had Mojaves on his table. For the first time, I could see something like that in person with my own eyes and not through a computer screen. And I looked at the Mojave, and then I looked up at the guy and I said, "Can I hold it?" Knowing damn well like he might say no because it's $5,000, but at the same time hoping he would say yes so that I could actually physically touch it, you know. And my dad's right next to me. He's like, "Oh no, 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 don't, no, that's $5,000. You're not holding that." And the guy looked at my dad and he said, "Sir, it's okay. He can hold the snake if he wants to hold it." And he let me hold that snake. And yeah, Mojaves hold a special place in my heart as far as, you know, being one of those things that was the first animal that I held. And at the time, they were one of the most expensive ball pythons in the world. So, you know, $100 Mojave nowadays isn't nothing to gripe about, but it's a beautiful morph. You know,
It is.
it's a very satin based morph. The silvers are very prominent in the babies. The flames coming up, they're there. You don't need yellow belly. You don't need fire. You don't need Russo, or like Russo Mojave is like a white snake with pattern, but like you don't need anything to add a beauty, you know, beauty to that baby. Nowadays you need things to add value so that people are more interested in them. But when there wasn't a lot of comparables and there wasn't a crazy market, like that was one of the most beautiful snakes that you could go and physically see in person and buy.
Agreed. Agreed. So Jerry, I got 2 more questions for you, and then we're gonna get on out of here.
Okay. I know I talk a lot.
Nah, you're good, brother. I like what you're saying. Like honestly, it's really good. Um, so my first question is, what do you think of the podcast so far?
I'm enjoying it. I like the questions that you're asking. I think that they give me a direct a direct line of answering while not feeling too generic.
No, appreciate that. really do. And my
I
second
don't feel like
question
I'm
is,
repeating
oh,
myself as far as like I've been on other podcasts, so I don't feel like your questions lead me into a path where I'm repeating things from prior podcasts or anything like that. I think it's been really good.
I appreciate that. That's good. I hear that, David. You're on the right track. Good job, bro.
Yeah, Chris was a little nervous.
I was.
I
He was
like the
giving.
genetic questions, the science questions coming from David too.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to
It
do. I
helps
was
him
trying to
learn.
tap into my biophysics background here, like kind of get your scientific juices flowing.
But yeah, like I was, like you said, I was hella nervous, brother, because uh, I don't know. I always get nervous though during like the show, because like I felt like you were just wanting to get straight to the point, and like I'm like because I like to joke around a little bit. I didn't know if I could joke around with you, you know. So I was just like nervous. Like, what do I say?
Yeah.
you know?
That was probably just because I messaged you and I just tried to give you a little bit of background on me beforehand, and it probably made you feel that way. But I just didn't want you to come into this thinking like I'm just a newbie, like I'm new to putting my face out here. But I wanted you to know that, at least a taste of the knowledge that I have to express over the podcast before we came out.
Yeah, he pulls his weight. He pulls his weight in the community.
No, I loved it. And trust me, I loved everything that was said today. It was very knowledgeable because, like I said, I stopped for a minute. I got out of it, but you made me want to get in back into gaining knowledge on the ball pythons I want to work with now. You know what I'm saying?
Do it, man.
Just the
You need
projects like so.
to. I mean, what projects do you like? Like, what projects really spark you that make you wanna go to the next level?
I mean, it's nothing new, but I like
No,
fights. So
not
like
nothing new, but
the urban camels, I got a pair. I'm producing those.
let me show you
Um,
something. So this isn't anything along the lines of urban camo, but I think if you got a few darkening traits in this, like say Suma and Black Pastel, I think that this could be better than the urban camo stuff because the urban camos come with the kinking and the life, failure to thrive issues because of the super
seen that.
cinnamon
Yeah.
and the super black pastel that's required in that genetic combination. But this snake right here, I just recently picked up. You guys might have seen it in one of my reels, but I got this from Edge of Panic Ball Pythons. It's a Fire Disco Spot Nose Enchi, and he is almost a piebald.
That's gorgeous.
So imagine that with a dose of Suma and black pastel, super mahogany with black pastel layered into that. Kind of like how they're trying to reinvent the panda pied without the genetic issues. So if you were able to get this with a dark gray or a dark black palette, you could reinvent the urban camo
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying.
without the genetic issues,
Interesting.
with a
But
higher amount of
I would have to
pattern.
invest in one of those, a female. But
Disco and vanilla, disco and fire, but I think the enchi is the key into the floating pattern and the piebalding because the only other trait in this is spot nose, and the spot nose just kind of stripes them out. You see the striping.
yeah, that's freaking
So
phenomenal. It's
maybe
gorgeous.
maybe spot nose plays into the high whites on the sides also, but I'm not positive in that.
And I'm
But
also doing the Powerballs, the spot notes.
yeah.
Yeah.
I really like those, and when you get into the deeper genetics with them, you definitely can get away from the vertigo issues. Like rice reptiles, they had those uh, fire redhead Powerball clowns, and then one was a redhead Powerball clown. You can still look them up probably on their website or on their Instagram. And those Powerball clown combos they blow me away. So I have a pairing. Before I even seen those, I was investing into a female that she's a super fire, and so she's super fire. I believe she's yellow belly. That's pretty much confirmed with the yellow belly granulation around her yellow patterning, but we'll just call it possible. So she's a super fire, possible visual clown or het clown because she came from a visual clown to a het clown. So it's a 50-50 chance for either one. So she's super fire, possible visual clown, at least minimum het clown, possible red stripe, yellow belly, spot nose. And I have her going to that male that I just showed you. So that's going to produce all disco creams and all disco infernos. Or I'm sorry, all disco infernos or vanilla creams, either clown or het clown, with a combination of possible fireball or powerball combos. So we can get possible powerballs, spot nose on its own, red stripe, yellow belly, or Enchi.
Lots of combinations.
So
That's
like the
awesome.
best snake that you can get out of that genetically would be a disco inferno clown or a vanilla cream clown, powerball, red stripe, Enchi yellow belly.
I guess it's fun kind of starting with that kind of pairing because then you just kind of have that whole distribution it's spread out and you get to see kind of what comes out.
Yeah, and because that's an allelic combination with the fire and the disco, it'll always pass on one copy of fire or one copy of disco. And with her being a super fire, she'll always pass on one copy of fire on each side. Like always gonna pass on one copy of fire to the babies. So all the babies are gonna be disco fire or vanilla fire. And we know that those are all allelic combinations, so they're all going to be the they're all going to be act like super visuals. And then some of them will either be visual clown or het clown with the array of spot nose, super spot nose, red stripe, yellow belly, enchi. So the
Neat.
possibilities there, because I'm already guaranteeing myself two genetics to pass on, plus at least the minimum of a half a clown, or I'm sorry, hopefully I have her genetic tested, and hopefully she's a visual clown, because then I would get a guaranteed heterozygous clowns, guaranteed fire, guaranteed disco or vanilla, and then spot nose, possibly a double dose of spot nose, the red stripe, possibly red stripe would pass on, yellow belly or enchi. So that leaves a lot. So that leaves a lot less variability on the back end because I can guarantee that I'm going to have vanilla creams or disco infernos, either visual or het clown. Those are guaranteed. And then the combination stacking on the back end is the variability. That's where I'm going to probably end up. I'm hoping that she's visual clown so that it's a 50-50 probability that each egg has a visual clown inferno or a visual clown cream, because then it's just the variability of what genetics are also in it, whether it's Powerball, Disco Inferno Clown, or Red Stripe, Spot Nose, Yellow Belly, Inferno Clown, or Cream Clown, or Pet Clown, whatever it is. But
That's awesome.
basically, I can, with that pairing, potentially produce the Pompeii with the fire omitted into the black pastel's place, or the Enchi omitted into the black pastel's place. So there's no black pastel in that pairing, so I can't say I can produce Pompeii combos. But you would omit the black pastel, and you say, like people say, a fire red stripe yellow belly spot nose clown is a fire pay. Because it's not a Pompeii because it has the fire, so they call it a fire pay, or a pin pay because instead of black pastel, it's pinstripe. So it gets fun. talking projects like that and pairings like that. And just one more pairing that I'm going to mention while we're here live is a male. It's going to be a black pastel blackhead, redhead, leopard chocolate, triple het hypo DG clown. So 7 different
Damn.
genetics at play in that male. And he's going to be breeding to a redhead, so possibilities of super redheads, redhead, pastel, spot nose, yellow belly, 100% het clown. So
Damn.
I'm
Yeah.
going for like a 10 gene combination at the highest, het clown, possible double het hypo DG. And then whatever I hold back out of that pairing, I'll have tested for the hypo DG.
Dude. That's fire.
But with a pairing like that, you're gonna hit so much middle ground stuff that has 5 to 7 genetics involved in it that, you know, the chances of you hitting the low end are the same as you hitting the high end. You're
Yeah,
unlikely to hit lower snakes. You're likely to hit everything in the middle, and then if you hit high or low, those
yeah.
odds are
That's
actually
the
incredible.
binomial distribution. That's just kind of how it goes. It's like
Exactly, and you know
spread
that
out.
better than
Yeah.
anybody. So that's
That's
the
That's
cool.
type
awesome.
of stuff that I'm playing with, and that's what's going to get me to the next level that I want to be at in 2 years. Like you were asking earlier, where do I want to be in 2 years? I want to be producing crazy stuff.
Man, I can't wait to see that, man. I really can't wait to see those babies. Um,
Yeah,
Now,
shout
my
out to
last question.
Miguel at Always Evolving Pythons for selling that to me probably while he was drinking at 4 o'clock in the morning. funny
Which is true.
story is
Yeah.
funny story is I hit him up. It was like 5:30 a.m. my time. I was getting ready for work. I was watching his vlog that he had posted on YouTube the night before, and he was like, "How did we hit this snake?" That was the name of the video, and he had this crazy white icy looking clown in the cover photo, and I was like, "Dude, I gotta watch this video before work." So he goes into the mom and he goes into the dad's genetics and he's like, but she's hypo and he was a visual hypo. The male was a visual hypo DG and she was a clown, blackhead, chocolate, everything else. And he goes, I had no clue that she was hypo. So this is like a Christmas. He was like, this is like a surprise clutch. So he had a bunch of like double visual hypo clown, blackhead, chocolate stuff, or black pastel chocolate,
Um,
hypo clown stuff. But out of all of the eggs, he only hit one male, and that male was a triple het. That one that I just rambled off. Blackhead, black pastel, chocolate leopard, redhead, whatever. Yeah, but
Whatever.
he basically was like, I keep pop even in the video he goes, I keep popping all these, you know, double visuals hoping that one's a male, but none of them are males except for this one. And he put it on the screen and I was like, hey Miguel, you want to sell this? And lo and behold, like 30 minutes later, he messaged me back and he goes, yeah, I'll sell it to you, sure. And I go, how much? And he threw me a number that I just could not say no to. I thought about it for about 30 seconds and I was like, sold. Send me the link to pay you the deposit. I'll pay you the rest this Friday, but I'm locking it down now. And basically I was able to pay the whole thing off right then and there, but I was like, it's early in the morning before work. I want to at least send you a deposit for it. I got to get going. And he was like, oh, just hit me up later. It took about 6 days for him to finally send me that payment link.
Damn.
And
He's
throughout
busy though.
this, yeah, no, he stays busy and
Yeah.
it was nothing that my brain was thinking, I don't believe, but in my brain the whole 6 days, it was, man, he's regretting giving me that price. He's thinking about keeping that snake because it was the only male in his clutch, and he was hoping that one of them was a male, and he's gonna change his mind. And I'm like, I need it, and that's like such a good price. Because I did a comparable online, and I'll just tell you that the comparable on Morph Market for just the leopard triple het was more than I paid.
Damn.
Yeah, so I got a crazy deal from him, and I asked him if he would help me level up by selling me that mail, and he definitely helped me level up. So huge shout out to Miguel at Always Evolving Pythons.
All right. So we already hit the 2 hour mark, Jared. Damn. 2 hours went by fast though. Uh, before we get on out of here, uh, what is a positive message for everybody watching? I want to thank you for coming on. You know, giving us your time, taking time out your day to come and talk about snakes, sharing your knowledge. Um, you know, being here on this podcast. I appreciate you.
My positive message is going to be this: no matter who it is in your life that gives you doubt, keep your passions and your goals alive in your own mind, because those people just don't have the visions that you do. And my visions were suppressed for so long that I let it build a fire in me. And that's what you have to do, is let it build a fire in you. And even if it's something that you may not have the means to go after right now, whether it's a job, college, whatever growth that you want to get in your life, it's a positive mindset. That's the biggest thing that you can hold, is a positive mindset for yourself. Because with a positive mindset, like I said, belief is something that you don't see. You can't believe in something you know because you know it. So if you believe in something, it's still something worth chasing.
Hell yeah. I like that. That was good. On that note, guys, you have anything else to say or add, David?
I think that's a powerful message. It resonates with me too. I've been through, some rounds of failure and some doubt myself, and I just have to have the confidence in my own vision and my own skills, and just keep chugging away, adding fuel to that fire.
Keep your beliefs.
Oh
You have
yeah.
to remember that beliefs don't exist, or else you couldn't have a belief in it, because you would already know it.
Oh yeah. All right, man. Thank you for being on. On that note, remember, guys, that check on your loved ones. You know, stay positive, lift others up, never put anybody down.
Be good parents.
There you go. Be good parents, and y'all have a good night. We love y'all. Peace. We out of here.
Thanks, guys.